Over, over time, a quiet walk in the woods at Port Gamble Forest has become more elusive, problematic even. Honestly, the many issues tangled up in Port Gamble Forest and North Kitsap Heritage Parks keeps me awake at night. Salmon, eagles, newts, beavers, deer, where are they in this master plan? How will the springs, wetlands, and streams be protected? Is this park to be a mountain biking mecca? Should all trails be multi-use? The STO, a 10-foot wide asphalt trail, is slated to go through the middle of both of these parks, disrupting wildlife and ecosystems, and will cost millions of dollars. The STO will be maintained by Kitsap County Public Works as part of the county non-motorized transportation plan. Is this truly a countywide priority? The public has not yet heard from the tribes on this draft master plan either. There are so many other issues when you get down to the nuts and bolts. An open community meeting would be an opportunity for review and comment and much needed clarity. The Parks Department includes fostering community stewardship in its mission statement. Residents, users, and the county need to come together and agree on a vision for heritage parks. We need to agree on what stewardship means to us all as a community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Carol. The next email I have, I do not see on the line with us, so I will go ahead and read that one. This is from Wes and Sharon Carlson. It says, my wife and I live full-time in Hansville while maintaining a condo in Edmonds, and in both places we've been witnessing just how important of parks and beachfront access are to the public. The last 2 years in particular have been difficult with COVID, and more people have been heading to the available outdoor parks. The problem is that there aren't enough of them. In Hansville, they're heading to the lighthouse. In Edmonds, it's the waterfront. Full parking lots, which used to be an issue in July, are now commonplace. We are not writing in anger, but have to say we're disappointed in the prior stewards of open spaces here, there, and everywhere. You folks are in a position to make good decisions for the public. We hope you do your best to serve the Kitsap County residents whose well-being depends upon access to beautiful places. Clear cuts are ugly. The Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park has value that far exceeds dollars and cents. Best regards, Wes and Sharon Carlson. The fourth email is from Mary Gleistein of Kingston. And I don't see her on the line with us, so I'll read that one as well. It says, my name is Mary Gleistein, and I live in Kingston, where I am active with the Kingston Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee. I would like my comments read at the Parks Advisory Board meeting on April 20th and at the Commissioners meeting on the 25th. I appreciate this opportunity to comment on the master plan for the Port Gamble Heritage Park, but urge a more thorough and robust exploration and discussion of the park's place in our community and its ever at-risk ecosystem, with an eye to preservation and the restoration of this treasure which so many people work so hard to acquire. I believe the consultation with and assent from the Port Gamble, S'Klallam, and Suquamish tribes is crucial to adoption of any plan for this property, and that SEPA analysis is warranted, followed by adequate opportunity for public review and comment. Finally, I must mention I am troubled by the apparent emphasis on development for mountain biking and the deference in planning given to the successors of Pope Resources and OPG, from whom this property was acquired at considerable public expense. Thank you, Mary Gleistein. And the fifth and final email that I received with a special request to speak tonight or to read it aloud was from Margaret Tuft, who is here with us. So I would invite Margaret to speak.
There. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I do appreciate the work that everybody has put into this project. Sometimes simpler is better, and it is often less work too. Nature, for the most part, does its work better, more creatively, and with less hassle than we humans. Unfortunately, we often think we can do nature's work better than nature. Maybe we'll learn sometimes. I hope so. The pros plan is more in keeping with what the community members requested when asked what the park should look like. For much of the park in the master plan, nature is being removed. Sometimes just supporting nature as it does its amazing work is the best we can do. And maybe we might just learn something witnessing her artistry. I request a do-over of the master plan as it goes against, for the most part, what was wanted from the public in the very first meeting that we all had. Also, during this time of climate chaos, we need to allow nature to take over and do what she does best, repair and create the beauty that she knows best how to create. We need to stand back, applaud her, and help where it's needed. We need to have some humility and learn what she has to teach us. What has been presented in the master plan is more in keeping with the theme park, somewhat Disney-esque. Please do not do this. Thank you very much. Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. John, we have some hands raised. Since I was just reading what I had received, I can hand the meeting reins back to you. And if you want to begin calling on folks with their hands raised, we can continue with the public comment.
Is there anybody that has any comment on something besides the Port Gamble plan? Okay, Sue.
Oh, yes. Thank you for letting me comment. I did send my comments in. I don't know why that you did not get that. But I've been a resident of North Kitsap since 1986 and on and off before that even. And I am a regular user out at the Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park. And I too believe that we need to put brakes on this plan and we need to listen to the public. And I just have a few points I want to read to you. Number one, the public has stated that their wish is that the Heritage Park be preserved, and they contributed money thinking that there would be minimal development. Now we see that the plan for the park does not reflect that. There needs to be an open public forum on this draft plan before we get approval from the Parks Advisory Board and the Board of County Commissioners. Number two, where's the concern for the environment in this park? The park needs to come together as a whole and do a wildlife assessment, a wetlands delineation, and an up-to-date SEPA review. Additionally, we need an EIS for the project as a whole. This is the biggest park in the nation, and we must contain a professional environmental assessment. Number three, I'm very much against the planned STO going through the park. Pavement contains toxic chemicals and will harm our amphibians, and which are already threatened through climate change and habitat destruction. Let us not add to their demise through our actions. And we've all seen the amphibian scare that we had with the silt fence just recently. So please, let's don't do more harm. Number four, the Heritage Park seems to be focusing on the mountain biking community. I feel that the walkers and the equestrians need more devoted trails in our park. As you probably already know, if you've walked in the park as I do, it is hard to hear the bikes coming up from behind you. And it is my experience that few bikers ring a bell or alert you in time for you to get off the trail and out of their way. As the park is now, it's an accident waiting to happen. The signage in the park as it stands now gives the bikers the right of way. I feel the signage should be the other way around and should state that the bikers must yield to walkers and equestrians. Number 5, it appears that the development in our park is moving forward with the hope of bringing tourist dollars into Port Gamble. It is essential that these dollars stay in our parks and not spread throughout all the parks in the system. The ongoing upkeep of a park of this size will require money, and the park cannot rely solely on park volunteers, which I think that we tend to do in Kitsap County. And last but not least, when will the Port Gamble, Sklallam, and Suquamish Nations input become part of the Heritage Plan? Will the public be informed about the review of tribal legal counsel, advisors, and scientists on the plan for Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park? Thank you for listening.
Before I call on anybody else to speak on this subject, listening to what's been said so far, it appears to me that most of you have not read the entire 185 pages of the master plan draft. I've done that twice, and almost everything that you was brought up is referred to in the plan. So the next one I'll call from is Martha Burke.
Yes, my name is Martha Burke, and by the way, I have read that plan. It's not easy because it's online, but the parks staff were nice enough to print it out for me. So I've read it, and I've read the appendices. So having read that, I had a comment and a question. My question is, what exactly is the process for approving this plan? Because it's not very clear. I'm not sure what if the Parks Advisory Committee tonight is supposed to make a recommendation to the commissioners. What is the commissioners' timeline, and how are the commissioners going to decide on approving this plan? It's not clear. So that's my question. So my comment has to do with that this plan should have a environmental assessment as a whole, and it should not be done piecemeal. But I feel like that's exactly what's happening, because if I read what the information that just recently came out from the Parks Department, from Mr. Wazinski, he is stating that they are going for permits. He just says an SDAP, which is a Site Development Activity Permit, and a COHP, and I believe that has to do with a forest permit. And they're going through this. In other words, it is exactly that, a piecemeal approach to approving particular pieces of the project instead of doing any kind of complete environmental assessment. So it is a piecemeal approach, which is what we have recommended against. And in fact, I don't believe that is legal for something of this nature. So that's my comment. And my question is, what is the process going to be for approving this plan? Thank you.
John, you're muted.
Thank you. We will cover most of those in the presentation that will be made later, but I will call on Hank Anderson next.
Thank you. Hi, John. I just have a question on another topic that I haven't heard anything about for quite some time. I've tried to stay alert to it. I'm wondering what the status is of the potential trails connection between the Newbury Hill Heritage Park and the Green Mountain State Forest, whether there's still some discussions between the county parks and state DNR on making that connection real? And maybe it's something you could cover in a future meeting so that we could find out what's going on with that. Thank you.
I haven't heard an update myself, but we'll get back to you later on that one.
Thank you.
Beverly Parsons, please.
Thank you. I'm Beverly Parsons from Hansville. Many important comments already have been submitted about the Port Gamble Park draft master plan. However, I wanted to approach it from a somewhat different angle. Now, this may sound strange, but I'm focusing on the relevance of the recent report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change to our park. Now, this is a global body of United Nations that helps world leaders develop climate policy, but also does the same thing for us at the local level. There's important good news in this report that directly relates to us. It is nature remains the most effective and cost-effective climate solutions that we as humans have. And with the Port Gamble Park, we have a great opportunity to use 3,500 acres of our beautiful county to protect ourselves and make a major contribution to our state and world. 3 of the top 5 effective strategies given in that report apply to us. First, reduce the destruction of forests and other ecosystems. Simply not cutting down forests is one of the most effective actions we can take. Second, restore our ecosystem. Third, scale up solar energy. That's directly relevant to our transportation system and economy. But you may say, wait, we already made a decision in 2011 to build a major portion of the STO through the park. Well, that's a decision that we in this county can change. We made it, we can change it. A decade ago, we didn't know the severity of the climate situation, and it's relevant to us. Let's change our course. Let's scour this well-organized and documented draft master plan, not for how to best carry out the plan, but for how we can see the whole picture of how to change our course and use this park to contribute to our own collective health and that of the planet. Let's look for how we can engage in public dialogue about how to reduce the destruction of our forests, how to restore our ecosystems, how to rethink our transportation systems, and the economic development related to the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Debbie Weinman, and I believe that's the last one, it looks like.
I am Debbie Wyman. I live in Kitsap County, and my comments tonight are my own. The comment I wanted to make first is my concern about the future administration of the master plan. I didn't find anything real specific about that in the document. And my concern is that if it's going to be administered like the way things are done today, which my understanding is the Parks Department and the Port Gamble Heritage Park Stewardship Committee work together to maintain the park. Is that correct? Anyway, that's my understanding. What I would like to see in the plan is that there'll be equitable representation from all the park user groups on the Port Gamble Stewardship Committee. I think that would be very important. My second comment is about the trails map that was put into the plan. And I have concerns about quite a few of the trails on there that are labeled as multi-use. And my concern is that some of those trails, I think, would present a safety hazard if they were multi-use, because they're designed really for mountain bikers. And I'm a mountain biker myself. But I think there are some multi-use trails that if you had pedestrians going in one direction and mountain bikers going in the other, that would be a safety hazard. And so along with that, I'm concerned because of those safety hazards that those multi-use trails would then become biker only trails. And so that's another thing I would like to see looked at a little bit closer. And then finally, I do really appreciate the comprehensiveness of that plan and all the work that went into it. However, I do feel like the online forum was not very effective for giving feedback and also hearing the feedback of others. And I guess my question is, what's the harm in giving a little more time for the community to review what is a very long, detailed plan, and also giving the community an opportunity for an in-person exchange of information? The online forum is, in my mind, one-way communication. So even if I put a comment in the chat, and then if my question was even chosen, I had no way to respond to how they answered the question. And I just feel like that was very limiting in terms of a discussion. And I thank you for the time in taking my comments.
Thank you, Debbie. Joe.
You're muted, Joe.
Thank you, John. I'm a steward at North Kitsap Heritage Park. A number of years ago, the stewards did a thorough wetland delineation and creation of buffers. The current master plan, the wetland delineation looks weak, and there is no buffers in any of the GIS layers, and that's a very basic planning tool to know where your wetland buffers are, and that's not even part of this plan. So just based on that one little item, I'd say it's not ready to go forward to the commissioners. Secondly, I do support public discussion and dialogue. Carol's suggestion and others that some more of that in an open community meeting is needed is probably valid. I tried to participate in the chat process, and that was very difficult and didn't really effectively garner the kind of conversation that you need to have when you're dealing with different opinions and challenging issues. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Alex, would you like to follow real quick before we get to David?
Sure. I mean, first, I want to say thank you to everybody who took time out of their own day to come and join us this evening, and or send emails in advance of today, voicing their opinions, concerns, recommendations, questions, and so forth. We have tried to do as best of a job as possible to make this an open communication opportunity throughout the course of the last year and a half now, for this process, focused on the master plan, which is kind of just the tip of the iceberg when you kind of look back into the history of the parkland itself, which far outdates my employment here and many other directors before me, dating back over a decade in the making, in terms of loving this land, this what is now a park but wasn't before, and the community effort, the homegrown effort that came together to rally behind it and protect it. There are a lot of interests at play. There are, challenges in that, there are multiple ownerships overlapping the property, overlapping the park. The county doesn't own it outright. The Rainier still owns rights to the trees, and we have other things layered in as well. that all play into, you know, the design effort, the planning effort that has gone into this, as well as the, you know, being in COVID, a very challenging environment for community engagement. And, you know, that obviously directed us to, you know, a virtual platform, because we, you know, initially simply weren't allowed to be together. And then, of course, you know, made choices to not engage in a person-to-person environment. And so finding, you know, ways to, I wouldn't even call it duplicate being in person, because I don't think that there is a way that you can, you know, duplicate that, but finding other ways to recreate that in different ways. And you know, being virtual does allow for actually opportunities that you can't have in when you're in person too. So there are pros and cons to both approaches. I think ideally we would have all, you know, would have rather had an opportunity to do a blended approach and do both. Being virtual allows folks to be involved without having to leave their home and travel across the county, which is large and can help expand engagement. But you do miss out on that person-to-person communication. I certainly get that. We are recording tonight's session. We have captured and are recording all of the emails that are coming through. Our consultants are going through all of that, in addition to all of the comments and everything that we have received at the fourth public meeting, and really putting all of that together into a response package, I guess I would say. And so that is still going to be forthcoming. There will be, you know, a lot of the concerns that we heard tonight are in line with concerns that we've heard from other folks too. And so I guess I will just say that those, you know, answers, some of them will probably come out in our presentation tonight to the advisory board, and as well as, you know, kind of the future steps of the process, which are laid out in the director's report, which is posted on the website as connected to the agenda for tonight. It's all laid out in there. It's the very last thing on that director's report that identifies kind of next steps and associated timeline for forward movement of the draft master plan. But with that, I do want to invite David McBride back. David has been before the advisory board, I think 3 times prior to this. He is from OAC Services. He is the hired project manager hired by the county to help facilitate, oh, excuse me, not only the master plan, but the other, the other 3 projects that are running simultaneously. And those are the ride park, the mountain bike ride park development, and the 2 parking lot and trailheads, one located at the south end of the park off of Stottlemyre Road, and another one that will be located at the north end of the park that will be associated in tangent with the ride park activity zone. Oh my gosh, excuse me. With that, I'm going to stop coughing and hand it over to David to run through his presentation. Thank you.
Right. So thanks, Alex, and to the board members. I don't have a formal presentation tonight. My understanding, I know I wasn't at last month's meeting, but I know Alex ran through that we had the draft plan. And I believe the intent of this past month was for the board to review the document. And tonight, instead of working on a presentation or anything, really, I want to hear from you hear your comments, your questions. As Alex mentioned, for the public comments that we've received to date, those are recorded with all of our documentation. And I've even taken notes on all of the public comments we received tonight. So I do appreciate that. So again, I don't have a formal presentation. I really just wanted to hopefully answer some questions, take your comments and your feedback. And I'm sure Alex will note in his director's report, we'll be kind of evaluating the process moving forward of what we're going to do and what that looks like.
So for the board members that have questions for David, just raise your hand and we'll call on you as they come. Lisa.
I think Catherine wanted to say something, and she's not a member of the board, but was our representative on the working group.
She's still an ex officio member of the board.
Thank you, John, and thank you, John. Thank you, Linda. I did. I wanted to make just a brief comment to you all. I am here tonight. Yes, I just am no longer a member of the board, but I appreciate you letting me talk tonight. And I am still on the master plan steering committee. I very strongly want to say that I believe this process has been done with good intentions, and I believe that it is a really good master plan. And I just wanted to say a couple things briefly. I know there has been some confusion about why Rainier is still able to log. And that is because that was part of the original purchase agreement for a lot of those acres there, and we wouldn't have been able to afford the property if we'd purchased the timber rights at that time. There are groups that are seeking money to buy those timber rights, and we wish them well. But at this time, that particular issue is not something that the master plan is creating or advocating. It's just the way it is, the way the property was purchased. Also, I wanted to say that in my view, it is so important to allow and promote access, appreciation, education, and research on this huge park, where a relatively small, a very small number of acres is going to be devoted to things that are not totally conservation based. But I think it's so important for us to promote a love of these natural lands in our future generations. And if we have this opportunity to provide education and research on this gorgeous park that is so important, it'll help us be better stewards in the future in continuity. So I thank you for consideration of those things.
Thank you, Catherine. Really appreciate the comments. Lisa, first up.
Okay, thanks. I did, after reading the plan thoroughly and reading the pros plan and reading the stewardship plan, and I was a little confused because I think the original steering committee and the pros plan set up original classifications for the park. And what I was confused with in the master plan, there's the section that talks about suggestions. And I know that there's two areas specifically that they want to change the classifications that the original steering committee had set up. And I'm kind of confused how an area could change from natural or conservation actually to active recreation. And it's part of that northern area where like Beaver Pond and, you know, all the water is. And I know that they want to put, it's near where they want to put in all the development. So anyway, I'm kind of confused how they can switch a classification just because of a recommendation so that the plan will be approved. Yep, that was just one of my questions. I have several, but that was one. So
yeah, so let me try and find where that's at real quick. We did talk about the classifications quite a bit, especially more recently as the draft was coming together. First of all, these are, as you noted, these are recommendations to the county based on the planning team's review of everything. I will say that as far as the proposed changes, I need to take a look at what was previous and what is the proposed changes, but the area around the beaver pond and whatnot should not be getting changed. So if there is a section in the plan that noted that, the only change that might be would be from natural area to conservation or vice versa. We did discuss the need to come up with some sort of classification that is not specifically called active recreation. And so they did come up with that conservation education classification as a proposed option, because really what the main development proposal that has been put together is pretty much predominantly serving education and research, which is in the direct support of the restoration of and conservation of the park. And the actual active recreation outside of the trails plan itself would be limited to specifically mostly within just that area that is the mountain bike ride park. I know that that has its own specialized recreation classification.
I just thought about impact, and they were talking about the conservation area, and it does say along the eastern edge, change classification to active recreation. So, and
do you mind telling me what page you're on, Lisa? Just so I can
I
make
took
sure I'm
notes,
following
but I took notes. Let's see, I wrote, page 175.
Okay, I just want to get to it real quick.
Yeah, let's go there. Like the document, gotta say.
Okay, I'm on page 175.
Okay, 175.
Are you talking about the first paragraph, Lisa?
I'm on, yeah, the first paragraph, and then going down to even down in the tree stand 22, which I think is toast. But yeah, but they're talking about proposed changes, and if you read through the document and the pros plan, it talks about impact on the land, and I was just curious. It just kind of sparked curiosity in my head. Was like, well, if it's one classification, and it seemed like the amount of time the steering committee, they spent 5 months getting these details together to make the classifications. I just didn't understand how it could change so severely if it's about impact on nature.
So regarding the first note on tree stand 22, they did note that it's a change from recreational to natural area.
Right, and that's okay.
And they did state in here along the eastern edge, the classification recommended change to classification of active recreation is specifically for nature-based recreation and large events. So I think that is specifically regarding to that. Again, I think I'll be honest, the actual planner is not here, so that might be getting into the nuances, which I'm unfortunately not. I can take the comment back and I can try and get better information so that we can report that back to you. But
you just said large events, and that's what concerns me, because I know that a lot of these, big ride events, and like if we did put an environmental learning center there, they'd have lots of people gathering, kids, whatever. And, if we're trying to protect nature, how does that happen when you have people scattering about?
So in that planned area, if we kind of zoom in on that recreation and education district that they're calling it, I think you'll note there's that meadow they label it, and that's intended because we identified that there would need to be a kind of a multi-purpose space to serve events, whether it is for the educational programming, or for instance, if there was like a mountain bike or a runner's event or something to that effect. So that was identified as an already previously logged location that would be minimal impact, that is, you know, adjacent to those facilities. So that was identified for the purpose of kind of multi-purpose, multi-use, if that makes sense, since we really discussed not trying to plan for any facilities that are really only intended for a single purpose if they can be multifunctional.
So you'll create a meadow?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure how much we allude to it, but there was also some discussion of how that could also serve double as like a fire break, as we have evaluated the fire hazards throughout the park and worked with the fire department on their recommendations. But it is more intended to be just kind of serve as a remain clear, and then kind of planted back as like a meadow or something, just kind of a grassy area that natural, of course, that can be utilized if, say, there is educational programming in the summer that needs a larger space that can't be accomplished within the proposed facilities or the gatherings circle. Or yeah, like you alluded to, if there was a mountain bike event or something like that. Currently they do tend to stage up in that the airfield is what we're calling, right? It used to be used for the RC airfield. So currently that is where a lot of people tend to stage for events, which is not actually within park boundaries. So this was a proposed location, just again, based on available infrastructure and access and proximity to all the facilities.
But David, that's not in the shoreline block. That's up.
No, absolutely
Right.
not. No, that is within the eastern block.
Pointing out is that it says tree stand 22 covers the shoreline block. So maybe there's an error in there. I don't think there's any event space in the shoreline block.
You're correct. It is within the eastern block, and I was not picking up on that error. That is an error that should not be listed under the shoreline block. All of the proposed activity is within that eastern block, directly adjacent to the ride park parcel, because I mean, none of these activities would be allowed in the shoreline block.
So Alex, I mean, David, I would think it might be very helpful for you to pull up the map, maybe the map that's on page 175 that Lisa was looking at, because I think that one of the things that's hard to follow if you haven't been really intimately involved in the process is there's the shoreline block, which is actually the furthest east, and then the eastern block, which is really the middle. And it just has to do with kind of the terminology used in this, but that was the land. That eastern block is the area that has the timber deed on it, that's the full length of the property and was purchased primarily with DOE funds. And
yeah,
I
I'll
think
share my screen real quick so that we're
Lisa.
all looking at the same. Thank you, Linda. I was not picking up on that specifically. So here's the mapping that we're talking about. You're right. It does note that this is in the shoreline block. However, the area that we're talking about is right here, and it's within this eastern block. So the eastern block is this giant yellow outlined. This red area is where the mountain bike ride park is. And then this orange outline space is the shoreline block specifically.
So that line between the shoreline block and the eastern block, Lisa, there's a huge difference in elevation there. So that area that they're talking about, the events parking, is not down in the level area near the wetlands or in the area where the creeks are.
Yeah, they'd be kind of right about where my hand is.
Thank you for that. I have a few other questions, and my dogs right now are totally barking, freaking out. But one question I did have on the master plan, you've mentioned several times about the 4 public meetings and the comments people made, and how the majority of people would like to keep the land natural. And you said that several times, but then as you go through the plan, I read several times it said, but that's not sustainable. And so my question is, it said not sustainable because of the M&O budget and the amount of money it would cost to maintain and build the park. But if it was kept natural, my question was, how much actually would it cost to maintain like what Pope has been doing for so long, or Olympic Property Group? Just, you know, they don't really do that much. They don't do much to the single track trails at all. And the double track, they just run a mower up there occasionally, and then they throw rock on the road when they're about ready to clear cut. So I was just curious. I read that it was $7,556 per acre. Is that right? And does that mean for money for the undeveloped forest as well? Undeveloped land?
So,
That's on page 5 of the,
yeah.
yeah.
So if I go to I might have to pull up the appendix. So when we did the cost estimates, we did evaluate the cost of maintenance and operations from current condition as is, as well as at each phase that the plan proposes. And that baseline cost was presented, and I need to look and find that real quick. It is quite a bit, though, that is not within the current budget.
And what I read also is that the thinning of the trees is where most of the money is used for funding the maintenance and operation in the park.
It only really actually funds, maybe that's needs to be tweaked, that language, because the thinning actually kind of only funds that forest management specifically. It doesn't fund any other operations and maintenance activities.
But wouldn't the building up the whole north end cause more expense? I mean, that would be tons of, it seems like a lot of expense to maintain and run and operate all of that.
It is, Lisa, and it's not intended to show that we have the capabilities within current budget and operations and resources and staffing models to maintain the park with the proposed, any of the proposed development phases. There's a financial component to the master plan that recognizes partnerships need to be developed, and additional funding sources need to come into the department, not only to help maintain the future of this park, but the future of the department, the future of our park system, which is references alternate funding sources such as Metropolitan's Parks District, and other opportunities as well to bring in new funding to the department to help support opportunities like this. The partnership, kind of private-public partnership opportunities exist also in that, we aren't going to go in and build out this plan as it is shown, as it's recommended, without partners in hand to help provide management and oversight to the different focus areas. We aren't going to do everything in-house. We aren't going to provide education programming. We aren't going to, we're not maintaining and facilitating the mountain bike ride park. We have partnerships set up to help those. So we currently have Evergreen Mountain Biking Association on contract to not only construct the mountain bike ride park, but also to maintain it afterwards. That there is no cost to the department to do that. And so it's those type of partnerships that we will need to kind of develop in advance of doing any type of, bringing this plan to fruition. In conjunction with new funding opportunities. And that has certainly been recognized in discussion, and I don't know exactly how it is stated in the plan, but that is kind of the our path forward.
I did read the part about the concessionaires, and that just kind of rubbed me wrong, because again, it seems like we're gonna lease out our park to all these concessionaires and just get a teeny bit of profit back to help pay for all the development that's gonna go on. So it just, I don't know, I didn't like that section as much, because it just seemed like, if we keep doling out all these things for other people to run and maintain and pay for, then they're going to be getting the profit, and they're there for 30 years or so, because they just put all the money into it.
Right.
And then we're kind of stuck with them, and stuck with the contract that we create, I guess. But then again, we're stuck with this whole development, when it seemed like a lot of the people that were responding in those comment groups were saying, let's keep it natural. Can we do that? How can we do that best? Anyway,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, 93% of the 3,500 acre park is intended to remain practically in an as-is state, outside of the, the ongoing timber harvest with the agreement with Pope Rainier, and the adjustments that are proposed to the existing trail system. But in addition to that, the community has voiced that they want other things as well. And so, and this is, part of a bigger picture that has been challenging for parks and recreation departments everywhere across the country. We don't have the funding to do everything in-house. It doesn't matter if it's Port Gamble or if it's South Kitsap Regional Park or the fairgrounds here. I can't even tell you how many contracts we currently manage for services that happen on our properties, because we cannot provide those services to the community, but the community is, demanding those. The community wants certain things. And so the mechanism that we, look to create are those private-public partnerships in which, we lease or license out a portion of public property based on meeting a public need that the government doesn't or cannot provide. And so there is this kind of, mechanism to try and pull that together. And it does, that there has to be a tit for tat. It is not by law, we are not able to gift public funds. And by that, we cannot give away land for a business to, just generate money on. We need to get something in return from that, either in the form of services back to meeting the needs of the community, and or sometimes funding coming into the department to help offset expenses in other areas and other things that we're doing that don't generate money, that are there for the general good of the community. And so it ends up being a bit of a balance. And this is the planning effort around Port Gamble has been kind of a microcosm of that, in that the community has this ginormous opportunity around 3,500 acre locally owned park. It's one of the largest locally owned, not state, not federal parks in the country. And it's an amazing resource. And to identify, how do we meet the needs of the community, and not only the needs that we heard during the master plan process, but also those that, were part of this effort to donate to acquire and protect this land over the last decade plus. Those requests are wrapped into this planning effort too, which is why we have 160 acres dedicated to a mountain bike ride park, which is why the STO is shown at running through the park and being a part of that. This planning effort was not done, despite these other things. It was done to incorporate these other things that were already approved, that were part of the reason why we acquired the property, to develop it into a park, to provide these services to the community, because the community said that they wanted them. And so, we feel like that balance of, there's still 93% of this park, being maintained, and the focus on that is restoration and conservation. That, the 45 acres, not counting the ride park, but the 45 acres at the north end of the park for, parking, an event staging space, and some education, facilities, seemed like a good blend. Hope that helps. I got on my soapbox there a little bit. Sorry about that.
Are there any other board members, Linda, that have questions for David?
A couple things. One, I wanted to just read a quick sentence in response to something Catherine said, which I really appreciated. And I don't know if most people know this, but the Kitsap Forest and Bay partnership that worked on this conservation group for so long, way back in January 2013, which astonishingly is 9 years ago, that community group crafted a sentence and asked the leadership principals, which would be the county, both the Suquamish, Port Gamble, Skull tribe, and Forterra, and asked them to consider the timber harvest as part of the conservation strategy, because already back in 2013, we knew that we weren't going to be able to buy all the land that we wanted for the community. And our community group, which at that point in time there's a whole lot of people for a long time, but the leadership was Great Peninsula Conservancy, the Kitsap Audubon, North Kitsap Trails Association, and also the Mountain Bike Group, which has changed names. But way back in 2013, a sentence was written, which was, in order to further the goal of preserving the 7,000 acres of the Kitsap Forest and Bay project for the public forever, we encourage the Kitsap Forest and Bay principals to explore the idea of allowing Pope Resources or its successor an additional timber harvest rotation to decrease land acquisition costs while replanting a mix of native species and transitioning to a sustainably managed forest. And that sentence and, the principal partners, the tribes, everybody's endorsement of that is why we have such a huge park, and also why we have a very complicated park in that we have active timber harvest in a park. And it just is, I know that, people go out there and are surprised if they haven't long been involved, but that's the background on it. And I know that I had written some comments and sent them in. And I did think that we ought to address in this plan that really cohesive and diverse partnership that worked on this for so long. I know I was involved in it since 2007, which is a long time. And you had representation of the environmental interests and the recreation interests and a lot of other people at the table. And it was a tough project, and we made some tough choices, but that's how the timber harvest part of it came about. I also had wanted to bring up a couple key things to the Parks Board. One was a concern that I had about the map on page 107 and the statements on page 108. So and I was hoping, David, you might be able to show that. So way back in 2015, when the park stewards were working on general planning, we were looking at a goal of a mix of about half and half of land that would be used primarily for conservation and land that would be used primarily for passive recreation. The ride park was always going to be active recreation. But that mix of yellow and brown was supposed to be kind of roughly a 50-50 mix, with the areas where we knew we had a lot of wetlands or sensitive areas having the natural area designation. But what we had done at that point in time is that we had exempted essentially the trail corridors through that. So say if you were looking at the south end of the park, and you would still be able to get from the south end of the park to the north end of the park, whether you were on a horse or a mountain bike or just somebody walking. And the concern that I had here is that on this map in particular, and all the maps, that exemption for the trail corridor continuity was not put into this plan. And if you go to the next page, which is page 108, it says, so in the area of yellow, it says no pets, no livestock or buildings, and no organized large group activities down there at the bottom under restrictions. And so what that would mean is that until this is fixed, you would not have trail connectivity from, say, Stottlemyre, where the county's about to build an equestrian parking lot. Those horseback riders wouldn't be able to go all the way through the park. And I know, David, I mean, I sent you, I mean, I assume that will be corrected, but that's a pretty significant issue if we don't have trail connectivity for user groups. So all three of these, and also on the events, it says no recreational events, but one of the reasons, for the park, part of the, the park is supposed to accommodate running events and mountain bike events. And if you don't have continuity for these events, you don't have trail events. Is that something that will be corrected? Or how
I'm taking note of that, Linda. Yes. Sorry, I'm still typing my notes. I'm slow.
Okay. And the other thing that I had noted, and one, I did want to say, I think this is a really well done document. It's a fast document. It's a huge amount of work. And it's a complicated park because it's a big park. But one of the other things I noticed that there were a number of places where it says that there would active recreation would be limited to just the area of the mountain bike park or the area on the north end of the park. And active recreation, I couldn't find any place else where that is defined. But in the pros plan, active recreation is defined as mountain bike use. And I'm not a mountain bike rider, but I don't think that we were trying to say that you couldn't ride a mountain bike throughout the park on the trails. And right now, I think it's the way I read it is without a definition of active recreation, I don't know what you're trying to allow or disallow. And I would think that needs to be cleared up.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought that was a pretty significant issue for the Parks Board and the Parks Department is that it repeatedly states that the park needs funding sources to operate. That's a complicated thing. And I know that there were concerns that, there might be too much development in the park. 93% of it would not be developed or parking or any of that other things. But I don't think that it solves the problem or gives a path forward if we don't have voters vote for a tax. In my experience, and I was involved a long time ago with the tax initiative where we asked voters of Kitsap County to tax themselves for a parks district. And I think that was way back in 2002 or something, which shows how long I've been working on this, but that failed. I know that, just because I'm willing to vote taxes to support a park, and probably almost everybody on this call is willing to vote taxes to support this park. That doesn't mean that it necessarily will pass. And other than the hope that we could get some taxes, I don't think that this parks plan, it said that was a huge problem, but it doesn't give us a path forward. And I'm wondering how that would be addressed. And maybe, maybe one of the things is that this is a guidance document, not a regulatory document, and that ought to be clarified, because there, along with that inconsistency, there are other inconsistencies that, if you wanted to focus on one sentence in this 200-page document, anybody could argue about it. Well, it says this on this page, but in there are other places there's a broader approach. But I do think that if it doesn't have a path forward on something that's as important as how we're going to fund it, we ought to say that maybe the hope is that people will tax themselves, and that will be part of the solution. But if not, we do have to figure out ways to help fund this park, because it is both a huge opportunity and a huge burden for the Parks Department and our community.
Okay. Yeah, no, those are good comments. And you're right, Linda, this is more of a guidance document and not a regulatory document. I think perhaps the use of master plan made that a little unclear. And that's, something that we've also discussed internally. So I think that needs to be cleared up as well.
Linda, I was on the CKCC when that first concept of Parks Board was put forth, and it was basically not supported in the first place. And it was at a period of time when we had a high turnover in parks directors, and there wasn't a lot of support for it when it was put forth in the first place. So it wasn't backed by too many people. There was really nothing. And so people didn't understand what the concept was. And at the time we put it forth, we figured that the amount of money it would take to run the parks would have been, and I mean, really done all of the capital work that needed to be done, all the back maintenance that needed to be done would be covered by 1/4 of what we could raise by taxes with a parks district. It was interesting.
Well, and I know particularly for a North End Park, I was hopeful that the Parks District legislation that was working its way through the state legislature this year would pass, but it didn't. Because I know when we were working on this parks funding, a long time ago, we got some information from Trust for Public Land, and they did some community polls, and people are more likely to support a sales tax than a property tax. And that's a challenge, and it's also a challenge, particularly in the North End, when you have two metropolitan parks districts in Bainbridge and Kingston in the North End. And how would you create a new metropolitan park district without overlapping? So, I mean, I don't know what our tax structure would be that people would vote on to support this park, but it just, to me, I'm not clear on what's, maybe we could work with our legislators and try and get something, get some legislation forward that would work for park funding. But right now, it isn't there yet. And I don't know what our structure would be. So I'm just really wary of relying on a tax, people voting on a tax that not sure what it would even look like.
Thank you. Is there any other board members that had questions for David? So seeing none, I would like to request how you people feel about going forward with passing this on to the Board of County Commissioners for a study group with them in May. So for those of you who didn't see it anyway, the proposed calendar for that would be board with a couple of study sessions, responses to public comments in May, the master plan to Public Utilities District in May, and then back to the BOCC late in May and in early June for passage, for their passage of it. And you were asking, somebody was asking about the tribes. The tribes have been included with this all the way through, and they will be heavily included in it from now on until the finish, from what I've heard. So I am proposing that we do pass this forward to the Board of Commissioners. So I need a motion for that.
So would we be recommending their consideration with our comments and requesting those revisions and as a guidance document, not as a
Yes.
regulatory document? I think that the guidance document is really important, especially since I'm hoping to see those the changes that we've discussed. And I don't know what other people, other board members think about those comments about requesting a definition for active recreation and also clarification on the continuity and of the trail corridors.
I agree. I think we need some more clarification on what some of the issues you brought up, Linda, and just the I like all of the ideas about incorporating research and education into the park, but the burden that I see when I see that implementation table on the parks, I mean, everything in that column under responsible party is parks, 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 parks. And I mean, that's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 full-time people working on this. I have some reservations about sending it on. I don't know if we're approving it. I don't know exactly what we're saying, but without some clarification about the partnerships needed that you mentioned, Alex, and that all of this is contingent upon those partnerships and grants and all of that.
Alex, would you speak to that, please? Could you?
I am fine. Sorry, I was responding to a question in the chat. I am fine if the advisory board wants to propose a recommendation with the changes that Linda mentioned, as well as, you know, calling it a guiding document and so forth. Does that, if I missed something, I apologize again, I was distracted.
So are we saying that you're suggesting it definitely moves forward, but with the changes that we've required or requested?
So there is still edits yet to come. We are in the process of accepting, you know, continuing to accept public input and doing internal revisions and reviews currently. This will go to there in early May. We're scheduling a work study session with the board as our first touch point with the county commissioners to brief them on the project, provide them. I mean, they've been briefed along the way, but this would be a formal briefing and give them an update, as well as share with them the comments and reflections that we've heard from the community with regards to the draft plan as it currently stands. Within that context, we're also going to talk to the board or make a staff recommendation to the board about how we intend to, one, respond to the comments and questions that we're receiving from the community. That may be putting together a written document and sending it out, or it could be hosting another public forum type meeting in which we'll, you know, have an opportunity to maybe dive more into the history of the project and then have some, you know, Q&A, open conversation type opportunity. We don't know exactly what that's going to be. We're going to look for direction from the county commissioners as to how, once they've seen the draft plan, we've shared with them the comments from the community, as well as our stakeholders and focus groups who have been involved along the way, and then kind of propose some options as to how they may want to move this forward. And then we'll engage in that process. And then afterwards, there will be a final round of edits that incorporates everything that we've heard. And then that will be brought back before the commissioners in a regular business meeting for initial sharing, a public hearing, and then it will come back yet again in June for potentially a final approval at that point. So I can share my screen here. I've got the kind of timeline pulled up. Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
Okay. My computer's really slow.
There it is. Now it appeared.
Okay, so I will, want to, tab this as tentative, but this is the tentative timeline for the master plan. What I don't have written into that, this is really the milestones of the kind of the touch points with the various commissioner report back to the public. I'm sorry, shouldn't be utilities, but public facilities district. And that is because the public facilities district, in large part, providing funding for the master plan as well as the ride park and trailheads. And so we owe them a report back on progress and so forth. But what's, I guess, missing in here is when exactly that edits will happen to the document, and maybe David can speak to that item, the editing component.
Yeah, so as you touched on, Alex, we didn't want to, because we've been receiving a lot of comments and a lot of feedback, not just from the public at large, but also from our focus groups and key stakeholders. We've been collating those together, organizing them according to the sections of the plan so that those can be clearly understood, along with a review of the draft document. Instead of trying to ask the planning team to go back and make edits along the way, we've been holding off. We want to make sure that we have all of this information and that we can share that with the commissioners, and as Alex mentioned, have some sort of kind of response to how we intend to address those, so that they can kind of take all of that in and then share their comments and questions and feedback on how they'd like to see the final edits to happen, so that we're only asking the consultants to just make one edit, and they're going to need at least a couple weeks to go through this document and make all of the edits that we're going to ask of them. So we do have to fit that in there. Where that fits, I think we're going to find out once we can actually have a conversation with the Board of Commissioners, and we can share with them all of the comments that we've received and how it's presented, if that makes sense.
I have a quick question via the timeline, and I am new to this process, so I just want to make sure I feel comfortable with everything that I am supporting and moving forward with. So it sounds like obviously Linda brought up some really good points, and David's going to make some edits, and then you're asking tonight as kind of a recommendation to send it off to the commissioners, and then they kind of go over the edits, all the comments that's been going on, and kind of bring it back. At some point when it comes back, will there be an in-person? It sounded like some people are really interested in some in-person conversation that would continue from there before anything goes forward. As well as I'm also slightly confused, as Amy did bring up, there's a lot of stuff and pieces that is dependent upon partnerships. So I feel like there does need to be more conversation to make people feel more comfortable, as well as changing the word master. And then you hear commissioners and approval, which all sounds, I'm sure, can sound a little too official. I guess what I'm kind of getting at is there's more of a process that will continue on with the amount of edits and partnerships that need to be built in this process.
So I'll jump in here. Thanks for that, Amy. There are a couple things. When it originally set this up to come before the advisory board, we hadn't really fully fleshed out the remaining timeline in the detail that we currently have it. And so we were projecting it getting to the county commissioners actually at an earlier time frame. If the advisory board would prefer, we actually have time to bring it back in May if the advisory board would prefer to wait to, and I can't guarantee that all of the revisions will be complete by then, but we may have at least at that point a kind of, coalition of all of the public comments and the proposed changes to the plan. I'd be willing to do that if the advisory board's not comfortable at this point.
I, for one, would appreciate that. I don't like to sign anything until I actually see it, or sign on to something that I'm not sure what I'm actually approving.
Well, just point of clarification, the advisory board doesn't approve, doesn't have authority to do that, but would be making a recommendation to the county commissioners as a community advisory board. But understand exactly what you're saying, Lisa.
Yeah, okay.
So what if, is there a middle ground where what we could do is we could say that we're, recommending the commissioners start their review process and these revisions be made, but we would like to have another review after the corrections are made? And then note the issues that we want to have corrected, like the issue that Lisa brought up on page 175, the issues that I brought up, which was the trail connectivity, the definition of active recreation. I'd like to address the funding somehow, at least, not just say that we're going to do it and not do it, because that's kind of what the document says right now. And also a little bit of clarification on history, particularly around the timber deed. I think that matters a lot. I don't know if there are other issues we want to make sure are addressed.
I mean, you're welcome to, put your comments into a formal motion if the board so wishes. But I mean, we're also getting comments and stuff in from the public on a regular basis that is all being, considered and recognized. So I just don't know if, everybody has all their bullet points, but certainly can if the board wishes to go that way.
I am going to request a motion to forward this to our next meeting, the May meeting of the board, and see if we can wrap it up then. By that time, hopefully, this it'll be clearer to a lot of people on the board, and our questions will be answered by that time. So would somebody like to move that? Oh.
I moved the table is planned for our next meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion on that? So all in favor, raise your hands, say aye. Anybody against tabling? The motion table. Okay, the motion to table till next month is passed. Thank you. Thank you, David, very much for your presentation. We'll be hearing from you again, more than likely.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So shall we move to the director's report?
Yes, John, I'm going to suggest for the sake of time, we might entertain, or the board might entertain modifying the agenda. And I can certainly touch base on the director's report since that is timely and done on a monthly segment. But postponing the item B, restoration projects, which is just an information sharing opportunity on a couple ongoing studies to next month or even, yeah, to next month. Let's hope we can squeeze it in then. And that's, I might even, I know we have Jim on the line, and I definitely want to give him and Illinois Forest Preserve some major props, but also recognize we are way behind in our schedule for our Parks Advisory Board positions from the nominating committee. And maybe we modify the agenda, jump to the items 6 and 7, and then we can double back based on available time to some of the other reporting items. Does that sound okay?
Yes, that sounds okay.
Okay, so the Parks Advisory Board positions, this is the chair and vice chair. Last meeting, we devised a nominating committee. So now looking to basically allow the board to have that discussion and march that forward, hopefully to a vote.
Sounds good. Has anybody seen Larry?
No.
No.
Has there been a nominating committee meeting?
No, and at the last time, John, we did discuss, I wondered if you would be willing to again serve as chair, and I did throw out the question to Joanne, because she has also been on the board for a very long time, if she would consider being the vice chair. I don't know if other board members are interested in those positions or not. I don't know that anybody has stepped up and said they want to do it. Are you willing to
For
continue as chair?
for continuity, I would be willing to go till the end of the year for one more year. Well, Joanne said yes, I believe.
I did?
Did you say yes?
No, I didn't,
For
but I
vice
will.
chair. For vice
I
chair.
will, but you'll have to help me be vice chair.
Oh, okay.
John, have you served 2 consecutive terms as chair?
2 years, yes.
Okay, we have year-long terms in those positions. I believe
I think so.
yeah, the bylaws
Yeah, I guess I can't do it, can I?
don't allow beyond 2 years in a row, 2 terms in a row. I think that's the way.
2
I haven't
years
looked at
or
it.
2 terms?
2 terms, I believe. I'm conversing with staff on the side, so hold tight.
Well, I would be willing to serve 1 more month on it. And then we could see where Larry is.
Okay, well, I think we'll look.
Sorry,
Go
Alex,
ahead.
I can clarify. It
Thank
says the officer shall be elected by a majority vote for a maximum of 2 one-year terms for the same position, followed by a 4-year ineligibility period for that same position.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
How long was Larry the chairman?
He was
Wasn't
just,
he 2 years?
I think he was 2 years just before me, but I'm not positive.
So he's got 2 more years before he could be the chairman again.
I think so.
Yeah,
Is there
that's
anyone,
correct.
is there anyone else on the, that would be interested in running the meetings?
Anybody but Larry and myself would be eligible.
Yeah, the new members, anybody interested?
You have a format to follow?
The agenda, yes, we do have the written agenda that we follow.
If I get some training, I could do it.
I feel, so do we, and Amy, I know Amy and Joanne have also been on the board for quite a while, haven't you? I don't know if either Amy Lawrence or Joanne, who's been on the board for longer.
Joanne's been on longest,
Yeah, I don't know, 10 years, probably this year.
just under me, just less,
Yeah.
year less than me, I think. 2 years less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Larry's the other long-term one, but he can't go it.
Right, right.
It's probably not something I have capacity for right now, but thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I guess as long as I have an outline and what to verbalize with all the new Zoom stuff, I could be the chair. Does that mean other meetings, Alex?
What do you mean?
Does
Other
that mean
meetings?
just this meeting, right?
Yeah, just this meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I can be the chair if that's what you'd like. And would you like to be the co-chair, Lisa?
Sure.
There we go.
What's involved in co-chair?
If I don't show up.
Oh, okay. Okay, you better show up then, right?
Well, I do travel, but as long as we're Zoom, I'm golden.
Okay.
You did that a couple months ago, didn't you? Where were you?
I Zoom from wherever I am, sometimes in a car, sometimes in an airport.
So I guess we have to vote on Joanne as chairperson and Lisa as the vice chairperson of the board. So I would entertain a motion for that. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll nominate Joanne as chair and Lisa as vice chair.
Okay. So I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hands. So it's passed. Joanne is the new chairperson and Lisa is the vice chairperson. That starts next month, I think, or does it start immediately?
Hey,
Next
John,
month.
John, sorry to interrupt. Grady had his hand up.
Grady.
I was voting. My hand lingered.
Okay. So that is taken care of. Subcommittee appointments. Should we do that next month? Alex?
We have 15 minutes left. What would the board prefer to do? We could start the conversation, maybe finish it with subcommittee appointments. Or we could we could postpone this and double back to some of the reporting items.
Okay.
I don't think we have enough time for everything, so I want to be cognizant of that and maybe ask the board what item you might want to do.
Besides, I'm getting hungry for my birthday cake. So.
Oh, happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday.
Yep.
Lisa's got her hand up.
Lisa.
I was curious, by tabling the topic that we just tabled, how much time do you think that will take in the next meeting? And that may occupy a lot of time, so maybe we should vote on subcommittees right now. Just a thought. If everyone knows what they want to do.
I agree with that.
Do we need to with Jim Aho here? Do we need to touch base on the Illahee Forest Preserve?
I would
Right.
really like to give him a moment because we chatted before the meeting and I think he has some wonderful news that we all could listen to.
Oh, yes, he sure does. So
I'm curious.
I think we'll let Jim go ahead then.
Actually, Alex, I know has met with the commissioners, so I think he's got more information on this that is more relevant right away. So.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Where's the one here? Okay, let me know when you can see a map pop up.
Yep.
Okay, so this map is actually put together by the Illahee Forest Preserve, the nonprofit that Jim is a part of. That is a really fantastic partner with Kitsap County Parks and very dedicated to Illahee Preserve, the Heritage Park in our county. This, everything in green that you see here represents county-owned parcels. At the top here in the lighter colored, we have Rolling Hills Golf Course, but then just adjacent to the south and a parcel off to the side are basically kind of Illahee Preserve, kind of the proper, the main part of the park. The IFP or Illahee or IPF Preserve, no, Illahee Preserve nonprofit has been targeting different parcels to purchase to add or incorporate into the park for a number of years. Those parcels that they desire to add to the park are really focused around parcels that have a part of the waterway, our stream system, wetlands, ponds, and have a purpose for them in identifying parcels so that we may protect those as a part of the park itself. Everything that's in red is identified as those acquisition targets, either for its protection over those areas or like item number 5 here, kind of a funky in-holding in the middle of the park that would just be nice to make the park whole again. But this item down at the bottom, you can see this parcel at the south end here that is shaded green. This is County Parks owned. And then we had this gap in between the rest of the park here at the north end. Jim and Vic and others in the Illahee community did some fundraising and worked through their nonprofit to raise money and worked for multiple years with the property owner here to purchase a sliver of their property on that is identified on this map as A. This is 1A. To basically make a connection between these two parcels, the lone one that we have at the bottom and then the main park proper up in the north. They raised the funds completely themselves. They worked with the landowner, and then today kind of everything coalesced in which the county commissioners approved the contracts with the Illahee Forest Preserve nonprofit to accept the purchase and sale agreement, to do a boundary line adjustment rather than do a parcel separation. We did a boundary line adjustment to create this northern parcel to then incorporate this part of this parcel. And for happening at the same time was the nonprofit's purchase with the private property owner of the land. And so it was all of these things happening all at once. And I am very pleased to say that earlier today, all of the documents were signed, and the Parks Department is now the owner of a connection now to a parcel that was kind of a lone standout in the greater Illahee Preserve. And I want to give a lot of thanks and praise to Jim and the nonprofit for the work and effort that they did, and invite Jim to say a few words.
Thank you, Alex. Actually, I really appreciate Alex pushing this through. It's taken basically a year, but it all came about. And so we signed the papers. So there was a courier waiting to pick up the commissioner's signatures, and brought that to Land Title this afternoon at 1 o'clock. The property owner, who is 99 years old, came in and signed the papers. We gave a check. We had to pay basically almost $80,000 for that little strip of property. So anyway, so it just all came together at the last minute. And I'll tell you, county staff, Alex, it's just amazing what can happen in a short period of time. And just to let you know that on Tuesday, the day before yesterday, we paid $105,000 note off so that we could purchase the wetland. And Alex doesn't know this yet, but so we're going to, that property will be donated then to the parks as soon as we get all that paperwork done. So that's number 2 up on that map right there. So so in the last couple of days, we have spent almost, with the money we've raised, almost $300,000 raised just to purchase these properties. So
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
That is amazing. Well done.
Bravo.
You guys are amazing. I remember the first meeting I went to when I was still on the community council, I believe, when we were at the Unitarian Church and talking about raising the money for the south side of the ravine, if I remember correctly, off of Pine Road.
Yeah, that was the Timber's Edge property.
Right.
It took us 2 phases to do that, and we raised almost 1.5 million to buy that development. So the goal is to save wildlife habitat. And what's really interesting is there was somebody that found some bear scat in this area. So we have a lot of wildlife there, and it was just amazing that one of the neighbors found bear scat in their area. So we don't say too much about that, because if people think there's a bear there, we're going to have some other problems. So anyway.
Do you know the total acreage now, or what that will be?
Well, right now, well, we keep adding a little bit at a time. So we're about 590 acres.
Okay.
That's good chunk of property there.
Yeah. So anyway, but like I said, thank you, Alex. And then Alex, do you want to mention anything about that grant possibility?
Yeah, actually, that's what I thought you were launching into when you started talking about property number 2 there, but let me pull this back up. So back in 2020, Jim and company applied for a grant through the Recreation and Conservation Office with the state of Washington to purchase the larger, basically this entire parcel here, or to get money to go towards this. This was before the split was part of the conversation. The grant was not, it was one one item below the cutoff line from the state. But last week, I think it was last week, they contacted Jim and County Parks to let us know that they had money returned to them from other projects that didn't utilize all of the grant funds. And since we were next on that project line, we then were eligible for the funding that was originally applied for back in 2020 that was not granted at that time. And so we're still working through the contract with RCO, but currently we're receiving a grant in the amount of about $720,000. And Jim and the nonprofit, we already have the match in place from previous parcel purchases. So we'll be, moving forward with discussion with the property owner on what this might be. And you can see from this map, this is a fairly significant purchase because there's a large portion of this waterway that lives on this parcel, and it doesn't show up here, but there is a large pond here too. And so it is, Jim knows certainly more about the details about the parcel than I do. But the fact that we got a grant that we weren't anticipating from 2 years ago is was some welcome news. Jim, anything to add?
Well, with that $720,000, and then we got an appropriation grant from the last legislative session for about almost $200,000. And we can normally raise on a project about $100,000. So that means that we should have about $1 million to try to convince the property owner that he should sell this. So that's what we're hoping.
Yep.
You and your group do a great job, Jim.
No. Yeah, well, it's the community that is coming up and contributing the dollars. So we're just there saying this is what we want to do. So anyway, but I'll tell you, we couldn't do it without Parks and with you guys' support. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
We really appreciate all you've done, and I've been watching you guys over the years, and it is amazing how you guys can work over there. It's great. So now that we've revised everything, what, Alex, would you suggest that we cover next?
I think my recommendation is maybe to call the meeting to a close, go enjoy your birthday dinner. And the items that we didn't touch on today, I think that the chair and the vice chair were the most important, and I'm happy that we got through those. The subcommittee, identifying who is interested in which subcommittee, we can move that forward to next meeting. And the other items were more for, again, just kind of information sharing. So we'll slide those forward to the next meeting. My recommendation is to bring the meeting to a close. Of course, there is the advisory board member report outs as well. So you might jump into those.
Okay. District representatives, right? So we have somebody from North District. Linda.
The Port Gamble Stewardship Committee met on the 11th. A lot of the things that we discussed tonight were also discussed at that meeting. But in addition, there was a lot of detail about new signs, maybe new blade signs, so that there was some consistency throughout the park. And also when we reprint the new maps We also want to replace the "You Are Here" signs because there are a lot of people that get lost. We do have, there's been a lot of work on the reforestation and harvesting. They groups with our forest fund and other volunteers harvested some of the plants that are in the area of the Stottlemyre trailhead parking and moved them up to the ride park. And the ride park, as Alex put in his director's report, is moving along really quickly and getting a lot of construction done. There's also a number of events. One of them happened last weekend, and there's a couple of big ones coming up. And I know there may be some concerns about the Westfest parking capacity for an event that may have up to a couple thousand people. I know that the Port Gamble staff are concerned about how that can be accommodated, because the model airplane field parking lot usually accommodates 300 to 400 cars. So we'll see how that goes. That's all I've got.
So do we have a report from Central District? I don't. So. And the other are not here at the moment. South District.
Everything, I haven't heard any negative things. On the sunny days, it's well used. The fishermen are fishing off the point and down in Olalla, and I haven't been able to get down to Anderson Point, but that's in my future. It's well used. I still want to know about the parking situation, Alex. It's been going on for several years, and we need to get that finished. And I know you told me before the permit was issued, but there's still no move forward on that.
Yeah, it's really a capacity issue. Quick update on our hiring situation, and this was in the report, but I've got some new information to share. Kind of a good news, bad news thing. Good news is we hired our third volunteer coordinator recently. Sierra Cross is joining our staff. She will begin on this coming Monday, the 25th. We are excited to bring her. She brings a ton of experience working and living abroad, and most recently working as a program educator for GPC, for the Great Peninsula Conservancy. On the flip side, we went through a multi-month-long hiring effort for a parks planner. Had a final offer out, and as of this morning, the candidate has withdrawn from the process. So we will kind of go back to the drawing board on that one. And then let me flip to the other side again. And good news is all of our other vacancies are all posted at this point, which adding the planner back into that mix, the department has 12 vacancies out of 42 that we're currently looking to fill. So we're actually at a point where there's a light at the end of the tunnel, though. So in comparison to last year at this point, we're in definitely a better position.
I thought DCD was funding and doing that parking lot.
That's the first I've heard of that, if they are, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to go back and look at old minutes because that's what I was told before.
That's interesting. Yeah, let me know if you've got something that shows that that's.
I'll go back through some old minutes from meetings from when you weren't the director.
Yeah.
When the other one was still here. Okay.
Okay.
I'll look into it.
Yeah. Thanks, Joanne.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that kind of wraps it up for district reports. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Okay, I'm going to move for a motion for adjournment.
Move that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move
I
second.
second.
All in
I'll second
favor?
it. Aye.
So, thank you for the members of the public that stuck around for a while, and your comments were all good. And we'll see you all next meeting. And Joanne, you can practice up reading the little blurb for the beginning of the meeting.
You'll have to send it to me, John.
Oh, okay. So thank you and good night.
Thanks, everyone. Happy birthday, John. Have a good evening.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Good night.